Well, hello everyone. You have right here talk about for the best explained ever. Talk about for True Nations, and this coloring activity right here I want to put together right here. I'm talking about whenever during my growing up childhood life right here, and you see right here is the way I went and drew this right here is whenever I was very young, and sitting on like say like a quilt, and I'm sure that most of us, whenever we were kids, that would have had something like a quilt or a blanket that we want to cuddle up with, and anything that just have a certain area around the house that you want to sit at and watch TV or something like that. And here's talking about is this like and yeah watch TV and anybody may want to tour or besides on the wood floors or maybe on the carpet area that you would have like an American flag like this right here. But you see right here is the way I drew this using Photoshop that I would use the paint tool a little bit just to be able to draw in a little bit right here the details of this was right here was me right here. And if I were to be maybe in my bedroom and had like an American flag style blanket right here. And if anybody warrants is that that for any kind of blanket that you want to have, if it was supposed to be for anything about maybe a certain character or maybe a certain style or something like that, any quilts or blankets, special blankets or anything like that that you would like that, maybe sit on or maybe have on your bed or something like that, but have on your bed, as like a bed cover, but talk about here for like for True Nations, and if most of us know about is to about for what we call for true and false information. And the first thought I was thinking about while I was working this was basically that that if anybody were to say that that anything about what you call telling the truth, and if there's going to be a situation to where that if anybody has been in that situation to where that issues that were going on, and they say is to where well you're supposed to tell the truth, you're not supposed to tell a lie. And I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit right here, but you see right here is I use Photoshop right here just to be able to draw in just the label and the illustrations right here for the wording, such as for True Nations. And what's the best results to where whenever somebody, if they're going to be explaining to you about a story or an issue that was going on during your early childhood or maybe growing up or maybe issues maybe from the past or situations that come up, and they may ask you as to where why were you dishonest about the situation in the first place, and the chances are if anybody were to be telling the truth if for any source of situations, it can also be as to where that for maybe that the truth may hurt at times over the fact about that the person may not understand very well, but then on your hand that for like say for the best explained ever True Nations of talking about is to where that maybe that person would tell the truth, maybe if they are more comfortable about it, and then that for the person that they know and trust as well. And it seems like that if anybody were to be thinking about this, is that maybe that the truth would come, at the it's like at the point of time, and for how it's handled too, is toward the person that they know and trust especially. And one of them could be a doctor. I'm like, if you know of an honest doctor, or I'm like, a doctor that you talk to, or a therapist, or anybody, or it could also maybe be a teacher or somebody that if you feel very comfortable talking to, that they may tell you a little bit about the truth also. And if anybody warns us that, that especially if you're going to be having weird dreams or anything like that, anything about thoughts and dreams, or maybe if it's anything about what you call anxiety, any situations to where that goes by fear of the matter, then sometimes it you tell somebody, and then they may say something like, well, who cares, or okay, well that's nice to hear. Well, what's in it for me? They may give up answers like that. And so that's the thing about it, is to where that for many times that I like spending time, alone. It's like, especially in my bedroom, a lot of times you have my own space, and people may wonder to where they ask a question as to where why'd you do that a lot of times, and usually the answer is like, say, yeah, well, at the time for most of my childhood, most of my growing up childhood is to where that I would spend a lot of time, have my own space to where I can do my own thinking, and it just seems like this to where that from the problems that I was dealing with, it seems like people were basically saying this to her that, well, that's your problem, you deal with it, you're on your own, and sometimes whenever people say that there's going to be talks and discussions about something, and that they may mention about, well, that's not true. That's not the case, or maybe that has nothing to do with it. But they may say a word definition to where that's not true. And besides, we may have heard that a number of times. Maybe like seen it on the movies, or if it's anything about what you call journal entries or anything like that. But still, though, that the way that people say is toward it, that's not true, and it's like hey, that's not true, and so sometimes that the way that they say that would more likely mean is to where that it's almost like that yeah, just to kind of get the whole story clear of the matter, or if it's all about is to where that for somebody else who wants to speak up for their own opinion also. But you have right here, you have this is an example right here, and then I have right here is example. Talk about for not true, and then lie, like for anybody say between true and false. And I was also thinking about if I want to go ahead and use this right here, like for important rules, and then you have right here for lessons, for the lesson, and then for the true, it's like for care, so for whoever it's listening, and then you have right here for privacy problems. And so if anybody, these would be the same drawings right here that I didn't really do a whole lot of changes other than change the wordings right here. It's like for listening, for whoever it's listening and watching and reading. It's like for those, for the truth and then for the trust. So if anybody were wondering to where that what's the best way of how to get the truth from someone, and for what they tell you that it may not be all the truth though, or that they say that they may tell you something just to kind of get out of my way, or they may want to tell you that you're in my way, I don't know why you need to know, or something like that. But still, that a lot of the situations that were going on on my case, such as problems, or if it's anything about what you call a long story short or something like that, that sometimes people may think as to where if you're going to be dishonest with somebody and then provide false information, what is the main reason to why that you do that? And my answer I could be is to where that it's not really a lie. It's just that what you call is like something that the only information I can really give you is to where that and they may think that you're hiding something, but still though, talk about for the true nations of between true and false, and I guess like with anybody, that if it's going to be the principal or the teacher or counselor or doctor or anybody that for if anybody were wondering to where who taught you how to lie, and that lying, of course, is going to get you in more trouble, and you say for knowing about being dishonest with somebody and about any information that they got to collect also, but still that if there's a situation to where that it's like, say, if you're going to be in your bedroom doing your homework, but then you really were not doing your homework, you were watching TV, or maybe you were sleeping, and so sometimes people may want to where you're going to be playing your video game. You're not going to be working on your homework. You're going to be playing the game. And sometimes they say that well, that you're going to be in your bedroom or maybe in your office or somewhere. And sometimes that if somebody asks, why is it that you told me that you were sleeping? You were not really sleeping, was it? I'm like, no, you were watching TV, wasn't you? So sometimes that people may think that that line is going to be what you call it, allow them to get away with what they should be doing, or maybe the fact about it that they thought that they would get mad at them if they told them the honest answer. And sometimes it seems that way to where that most kids would maybe say is to where their parents are going to get mad at them because that yeah, that you were supposed to be doing something at home, or yeah, you need to do your chores, or you need to be working on your homework, or maybe something else that need to be done. And especially whenever you get older, the things that need to be done. And then sometimes though, that if anybody say that for how we train ourselves, that since we were a kid, to tell the truth at all times. And if it's going to be maybe in court, or if it's going to be anything about what you call it in meeting rooms or anything like that, in conference rooms, job interviews, that they say is to where you need to provide true information on for anything that you're going to be working on, especially if you're going to be hired on to a job. And I guess the best ways of how to explain this is to where what we see when we tell the truth compared to what we see when we tell a lie. And it seems like that anybody probably say that it kind of comes back to you whenever you tell a lie, that you see things that maybe that you don't, that look very right, or that you have like some source of punishment. So if anybody warns us that between true and false is that maybe why people would tell a lie compared to telling the truth. And so they say, yeah, that's whenever that your nose is going to grow longer, just like Pinocchio, and you're going to get a spanking or something like that. But if you tell a lie. But you see right here is I could have maybe provided more sketches, of course, but still that tell anybody here that yeah, I just thought that maybe this was good enough, and just use some more Photoshop work. Just add in right here. You got right here's the listening, watching, and reading. So let's just say if this was like story time right here, and then right here for privacy problems right here. So if anybody warns us toward it, if they were to be looking at on my Behance page, and if anybody warns us that that I'll be updating my portfolio with some of this work too, so that way you can be able to read a little bit more about what I had to say also. But talk about for how many of us are going to write a journal about telling the truth almost always. And I could probably say that those who know somebody, somebody else who knows you very well, ever since you were a child, maybe ever since you were a teenager, or something like, for the truth and trust, for trusting somebody that you had known for a long period of time, trustworthy. And I just really think that that's really the best opinion, is to where that anybody that may say that you're going to maybe get the full story and the truth of the matter is like the best of the knowledge you just by somebody else that you know and trust. And some may say that, well, maybe it's a counselor, or maybe if it's a doctor. And let's just say if it is a counselor, then yeah, that they may say also that they cannot release any information about you unless if there's forms or something like that, your permission. But still, that if anybody warns us that that anything about your the true true nations. And but the original idea I want to come up with, of course, was talking about for true and false. So if anybody warns us that that best explained ever, and anybody say that most of us can remember answering a few true or false questions, and one of those they would ask you about is to where if you're pretty confident working with it's something like that if most of us who've had any source of counseling, or if it's anything about treatment, like anything about maybe physical therapy, or if it's anything related to problems that you may have had in the past, and so that there's going to be what's called some true and false questions that anybody will probably ask you. And really though, that it seems like to where that some of these true and false questions that they say that some of it could be kept confidential also. But just think about it, to where the things that are not all kept confidential. And have right here is for growing up right here. I got what you wrote there for growing up, and you have right here is for the president. So if anybody wants to say, yeah, what would the president say? It's like if you're going to be giving a speech and then knowing about for the the truth of the matter, and then so if we go by the stories to where between the truth, the trust, and then it's like for the truth, like for what the president would say. So let's just say that this was right here was me right here, and if I were to be watching the the president's speech, and like with anybody that you back whenever President Reagan, or you back President Bush, or if it was for President Obama, I'm like one of them that would appear on TV, and think it's toward it during the time that when I was about 8, 9 years old, maybe 10, and I think that during that time, I think that during that time, I think it was Clinton who was president, but earlier that it was like Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, and so watching the president on TV, it's like sometimes that you're like Warren toward it for whenever people they want to discover the truth of the matter about the whole story, about somebody's career, about my career, and then for what I do as a student and as an artist. And so sometimes it seems like to where that you come up to those moments as to where that people they may get mad at you, and they may shout at you, and they may ask you questions, and then they give you that look. It's like I really need to know, and really it comes to those moments as to where for who really cares about the situation. And sometimes it seems like to where that you really start speaking up about something, maybe whenever somebody shows about about the willingness about his tour, that you can trust me, that I care about the situation. I really need to know what's really going on. And I just really think that that's really it seems like with anybody that they really want to get the truth of the matter, and then the chances are of you telling them the truth is to where that anything that you may say that you were hiding something from somebody, mainly because that you were afraid that they were going to get mad at you if they find out about what was really going on. And like with anybody will probably say is that you quit the program, or you were maybe if you were suspended, or maybe if you skipped out, you missed a meeting, or any other situation like that. Somebody would maybe think that lying about something is going to be better than say that well, I'll admit it this time. I dropped out. So if anybody warns us that situations like that you're going to be telling somebody, why would somebody want to admit to somebody else that about the truth of the matter compared to lying to them and they find out later on about what was really going on? It's like, really, is that going to look at? They're going to maybe look at you as to where that you were dishonest. That it's like that. Anything about false information. Situations like that. But still, for what we see about when we tell the truth, and then just think about it as to where that any sorts of punishments also, and then I also include that right here. I say for false information, but knowing about besides I think it was lessons, lesson learned, for the lessons and for important rules. So you have right here, I'll go ahead and zoom in again right here, but you have right here, as I include this right here, you got right there the stars and the American flag, but you have right here for true lessons. So let's just say that if anybody were to say if you provide false information on an application or anything about what you call education, or maybe for job offers or anything like that, then it's like say for knowing about the lessons, is to where they usually say is to where that you need to provide true and accurate information. To tell the truth, for whatever the situations is, and like with anybody that it's like at the time that whenever you're going to be if most of us have heard that before, the happy ending, and then maybe something's not going to happen overnight, that type of stuff. But really, about where does the trust begin at? And sometimes it seems like where does trust come from? Where does truth come from? And it seems like to where it all starts is toward it, for the ability knowing about for that if we want to call it the so-called sentences, to we may have heard that before about sentence fragment and in action verbs, about the person, place, and thing, and the action verb is toward it. Yeah, that the word trust goes by, unlocks what you call the whole mystery story about for the next curious word, such as, oh, okay, this is Matthew right here. Yeah, Matthew, I guess he would be, the action, he would be the person. Where would he be sitting? Somebody had to be extremely curious about what was going on in the background. Somebody had to be extremely curious about the writing that was on the right side, or somebody had to be extremely curious about the fact about, yeah, he was sitting on it looked like it was a quilt. If it was homemade or if it was bought. But still, that a quilt right there, and if anybody say you're going to be looking at a picture and think it is Torah, yeah, picture's a picture. It don't really prove nothing, any source of evidence like that. But still, that the way I want to do this right here is just kind of showing the artistic detail right here. I talk about for truth and for lessons. The lessons that we learn from whenever we tell the truth and then compare whenever we tell a lie. And we may pay, say we may learn a big lesson even if we tell the truth, but then maybe it's not going to be what you call in that serious situation compared to if we tell a lie. So we ought to know that that between true and false is that if anybody say that, yeah, that you've heard that before, as to where you'll get grounded if you wind up lying, or maybe if you wind up being dishonest or irresponsible. And just think about it toward it. For looking at this picture, you're looking at this drawing right here. This, of course, yeah, it was my freehand work. It's my Photoshop work right here. And if I were to be doing a presentation about this, and anybody probably say, yeah, you do a presentation about this, and it's going to more likely be as to where that, yeah, ever since you were in kindergarten, that maybe not everybody understood the languages for what you were writing, and not everybody could read your handwriting. But just think about it, to where for who could really understand, hear the voice of the artist, and then knowing about, for work that you do as well. And really, how does that consider me as professional? And like with anybody that may want to, where they're going to realize that the little brother careers, he grows up and he gets his degree in designing work, and they can necessarily to where, oh, okay, well, the chances are that he is going to tell the truth, and he's going to maybe say is to where maybe the whole understanding of the matter that he mentioned on the application is to where, yeah, he don't have a whole lot of experience, and maybe that he don't understand a whole lot about maybe the basic skill about what's required on the job. So let's just say that, if I were to turn down a job, maybe because that maybe I don't have the right experience, and then somebody may say, oh no, you got the experience, you got some of the experience. It's like it's not like that we see on the record that you don't have any experience at all, but still that like with anybody say that you're not going to hide anything, especially from the managers. So that's just a thing that somebody may ask to see a resume, and you may say, oh, my resume? Oh, okay. Well, it hasn't been updated in years. But it's like saying, you say, yeah, that you delayed the whole situation for about 40 seconds just because that you haven't updated it in years. And some things that maybe you would like to include on the resume, on the application, that you were not able to get done yet. And sometimes it seems like to where, really, that do we all really have time to really explain about what the reason of the matter is, or to just say that, hey, you're here, we want to get to know you just a little bit more. The only background information that we would maybe check a little bit about is maybe about the source of education, anything else that is required. But still, that if anybody wants us toward it, the answer to the question is toward it. Why is it that maybe people would lie at some point, or maybe cheat at some point? Maybe because if they say is toward it, they want to get by with what they want to do, and I guess a lot of it has to do with what I say. Hey, oh, if they want to go to the bar, that they're going to possibly lie. And I'll say if they want to go to the movies at a certain time, or if they want to sneak out of the house at a certain time, the chances are they're going to lie. But still, that for what they want to do and compared to what's going on, and chances are that somebody's going to lie. And they say that they they were going to the movies. They were planning on going to the movies, and they may have said something about that they're going to the library to do their homework, to work on their homework. They're going to the library or the career center to work on their homework, but then they really, they went to the movies instead. And so that's just a thing about it, is to where if anybody were warned to where that for about what's going on with somebody, and just think about it, to where about how it all comes together, just to really show us to where about the truth and honesty about for the person about as to what's really going on, especially. But for best explained ever, and like with anybody say that, you put in a lot of detail into something, and maybe not everybody's going to really want to sit down and listen to the whole story of the matter, but still that we're here for nations, for lie, for truth and trust. And so it's like really between true and false, that it's really important for us to tell the truth, like always, most of always. It's important to tell the truth, and if anybody were to say that you would answer the questions to where why would you think that you want to tell the truth at all times, and really that the information that you provide is going to give it a chance, is to give them, other people, the opportunity to where they knowing about whenever the trust is come around, is to where that for people who are not even related to you, especially people who want to help you out, who are not even related to you, they want to work your case, and then really about what you call for false information, and that's just a whole part about the whole story of the matter, for how people say that's not true. And the way people say that's not true. And I know we may have heard that a number of times, as to where that if anything about, maybe we may, talk about something, or maybe if it's anything about, Congress, or maybe if it's anything about taxes or anything like that, that really that we may have heard that before about getting the whole matter straight. But for way how people say that that's not true, I can there may be we may have heard that a number of times, and we weren't. Where that why is it that we hear that more often than we do to where that trust, and sometimes we use the word not true more than we do trust, and really that that's not true, or really I'm like if you really trust the situation of the matter. But if anybody warns us that for like answers Yahoo Answers, and you're like warned toward it anything that's going to be on the social media that for anything about for True Nations, is that you may have heard that word a number of times about for not true, and for what's considered a lie. But still though, that anything that you're going to be managing also, and think about is to go by the rules though. Important rules of the trust in the matter compared to a lie, or not true, and then you go by here is like for false compared to that, and it goes by for lesson learned. But still keeping a lot of the stuff in mind here, and just to teach our kids the important lesson about telling the truth, almost always, especially on the if you're going to be applying for something, and for a job, or maybe for a car. I might to be able to buy a house or a car, that any information that you gotta provide also. And I talk about for growing up right here. It's like whenever you're growing up, that there may be some people out there that you may meet out there in the world that may know you at some, it's like say whenever they meet you, that they may say we are not related at all, but hey, you can trust me, and you can trust this person, and you please provide true and accurate information, so that way they will be able to help you. And so sometimes though it seems like that we may have heard that before, as to where that people who are on social media, that that there's a human being on your line. It's like, who are going to be online, who are going to want to talk to somebody, and think as to where that, there's somebody that may not be related to you. They may treat you like a friend, a best friend, or they may treat you like a brother or a sister or maybe a cousin, or like say that they may treat you like, say for parenthood, they may treat you like that, like your family. You are what's called, one of the most important, one of the most important reasons to why that they decide to join the case or something like that. So there may be a number of reasons about why that somebody that who cares about for anything that you're going to be working on, anything that you do, and that's one of the things is to where they say that for why is it that we need to have this discussion about any problems that you come up with, and that's just a thing about us to where that for privacy and as well for problems. So that I know I mentioned before on another video, and I can go ahead and mention it again since this is a new drawing right here, like new Photoshop work right here. We're talking about for privacy and problems. So if anybody will warrant to where that you had that situation to where anything about matters that if anybody say matters that come up to where that you may not provide all true information there right away, and then you may tell them that it's a matter that I don't think that somebody else should not even have to pay. You say if what I call also pay grade. It's like to where if there's going to be problems as to where privacy matters or problems that come up with my case especially, and if somebody were to come up to me and ask me about what's going on and information that about, and it's like really that you may feel like telling them as to where, listen, okay, that's none of your business, or who do you care, or something like that. But still, that for any situations that come up, and and I know I also mentioned before as to where how do you surprise somebody without lying, also, but still, that for how do you surprise somebody, and or how do you handle it to where situations that come up to where you want to give somebody enough information, but still that if you don't believe that they need to know any further information other than is to where they need a state to where that they are your doctor or your counselor for more information, they can go in and talk to you at a reasonable time. So sometimes it seems like that to where if anybody warrant to where that that somebody read your journal or somebody that read your portfolio or something, and then they think about it to where that you talked about the future a lot, and anybody say that how can it be true if it hasn't happened yet? But still, that like I asked, like I mentioned a number of times, but still that for anybody that may say is toward it for how many times that we say use the word or phrase is toward it that's not true compared to well, that's true, that is so true. You may have heard that before a number of times too, about people say that is so true, but really about the stories and discussions and situations that go on, and you do work to where how they come together whenever you get the truth. And it seems like it makes it makes a lot more sense whenever you kind of get a little bit more, gather more source of information, clues, and sometimes that some of that information could be confidential. And so that's why that I think it's important just to know about what actions that we need to take whenever we do run into those situations to where that actions that we would need to take whenever we come up to those moments as to where that we discover the truth of the matter. And so any actions that we would need to take, such as is toward it, that somebody that notifying. And I know nowadays with the online sites is that they're going to be talking about as to where that anything, no notifications or anything like that. But still, that for a number of ways of how we discover the truth, but one of those would be is toward it, somebody else that you know and trust. And for most of my grown-up childhood, I could probably say that it's like really, it seems like it required somebody that you knew very well and that you trusted very well and who understood about what you were going through, just to be able to discover the truth of the matter. And sometimes it may work and sometimes it don't, but just the best results. But still, that if I'm going to be going through any source of problems of the matter, trying to solve math problems or trying to fix problems, sometimes I want to go ahead and draw and paint a picture right here, and it may not show being the best result, but still that draw a picture, and people may ask later on about what's that all about. You decide to write in your journal, you get mad, you get frustrated, you may say a few words there, or what you call they're not very appropriate, or maybe anything that what you call is toward it, that you got mad and you said a few bad words or something like that, but still that just knowing about the whole truth of the matter. And like I say, is that by the time somebody, you may have heard that before too, where you can't handle the truth, even though whenever you get the truth, but still though, that if anybody warns us that, yeah, what's the truth of the matter, described in this painting right here, in this Photoshop work right here. And whenever I was very young, it's like, that's around the time of my birthday, so if anybody warns us that, yeah, that, for anything about what we call it for true and false. And I was also thinking about, drawing a picture and painting it of whenever I was driving a Cadillac. I'm like, they say that, yeah, that for the directions about what your mind is telling you about what's a good idea and what's a bad idea. Oh, okay, well, that's the truth of the matter, this or that. So that's just a thing about us, to where that, for anybody to say that, anybody who's been to those situations about us, to where problems of the matter and the privacy reasons, and for how we can say for how people are going to get the truth of the matter. And sometimes it seems like all the information that maybe I may have, they may not all be true either, but still though, that I think it's all basically requires is toward that, the trust, and then for those who really care, and then those who are really going to be handling the situations, toward that, hey, that the people who are trustworthy, and the people who could be trusted, and the people that really just want to help, it's like the show is toward, hey, that you can, for the knowing about any information about you as a designer, especially. So I know that if anybody say that, yeah, you may find love, you find love, a situation to where it comes up to where that, yeah, maybe not everything that you do needs to be publicly available on social media, but let's just say that something, for maybe the doctor needs to see or something, but still that maybe not everybody on social media are going to be what you call people that you can't trust either. So it seems like it's toward it, yeah, that it seems like it takes a lot of work and a lot of what you call is toward working at, it seems like it takes a lot of effort just to be able to get the truth of the matter. And sometimes it seems like that you just really want to tell somebody that, maybe besides an arm and a leg, and I know you may have heard that before, to where it's going to take an arm and a leg just to know the truth of the matter. It's a long story, and sometimes people are going to say that too. So we may have our reasons about what we want to talk about, especially. But for what's the best ways of how I handle that, to where it, yeah, that, people say that, yeah, if you make something for somebody, and then they say that, yeah, well, I made this for somebody, but then whenever you gave it to them, you may have told them that, yeah, I found it, or somebody gave it to me to give to you, and then later on you told them that, actually, you want to know the truth? I made it. I just didn't want you to make it think it's toward it. Yeah, I was afraid that you didn't like it, so that's why I didn't tell you right away. I was afraid that you were not going to like it, so that's why I didn't want, I didn't want to make it look bad on me, so that's why I just told you that, I found it, or, somebody gave it to me to give to you. And So sometimes we may have those situations as to where that you may not tell the true you may not tell the full story there first, but like with anybody that if you're going to be very shy and be very nervous, and you may not even know what's going to be going on whenever you do wind up being do wind up confessing and telling somebody the truth of the matter about what was really going on. And so that's just the thing, is to where that you may not know what that other person, what they're going to say is whenever they do find out about the truth of the matter, but still, that just think about it, to where maybe it's better to speak up, rather than what you call, as to where that they look at you as to where that you were not trust, you were just this person who wants to mess around, you're irresponsible. It's like, please speak up about the matter, even though if you think that people are not listening. And I know sometimes it seems like that people out there, who don't care, and who don't want to listen, that sometimes it's like, really, that you know, you can spend maybe all day working on something and just think about it, as to where you're not getting anywhere. But sometimes that it seems like is to where maybe that's not all true either, is to where that you're not going to get anywhere. People don't care. They're not going to help you out. But still, that I guess for the next year or two, within the year 2018, or next 4 years, and then later in the future, I guess I'll be discovering more answers about, a little bit about more what I do, my story. Yep, friends that you used to know since school, the ones who found you, especially the ones who found you, and they may say that, for knowing about, for the happy ending, and, anybody say about the happy ending, especially, is to where those who found you, and think as to where that, that they went through a lot of work, just to be able to find you. And they may say as to where that we know that face, we know that cute little face that we used to know, but still, that has anybody told you that? Like, well, I'm like, whenever I look at my artwork, I do think as to where that kind of looks like me. That it's a painting, of course, but yeah, that looks like me whenever I was in the first grade. Yeah, that looks like you whenever you were in the first grade, and just think about it, as to where that's, if that's supposed to be like your portfolio page, and if anybody wants us that, yeah, if that's what you call your true identity, for who you really are as a designer. And I can maybe say that, yeah, it may not be perfect, but yeah, that's a drawing that I worked on. And for anybody that may ask, yeah, situations that come up, the best ways of how to explain them. They may want to know the truth of the matter, and they ask you questions, and it's like, really, that you may tell them too. Don't ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. And sometimes you say, well, unfortunately, I think I do want to know the answer to them. Like, it's a real long story. Well, I like to just know more information about this long story. But still, though, how do we manage it? Especially knowing about the truth and trust. It seems like it's all a matter about the truth and trust. It's really going to be the best solution. Just to be able to unlock your situation for the best results. As I say, really, people more likely are going to start speaking up whenever they talk about for True Nations, for the best explained ever, about the truth and trust, about the person that that you can trust, and then for the situation also, just to be able to have the person speak up about something. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and ManMade25, and have a great